Imagine for a second that you're the face of the world's most expensive luxury brands. Your face is plastered on billboards from Shanghai to Paris. You have over 50 million followers hanging on your every word, and your net worth is hovering somewhere around $100 million. That's enough money to buy 2,000 average American homes outright. You aren't just a celebrity, you're an untouchable titan of the entertainment industry. Then, in the blink of an eye, you become a ghost. One morning, you're the golden boy of C-pop. By the next evening, your music is scrubbed from every streaming platform. Your social media accounts, the ones with decades of history and millions of fans, simply vanish. If someone searches your name, they get an error message. It's as if the digital world decided you never existed. This wasn't just a career ending, it was a total systemic deletion. And it all started with a single post on a smartphone screen that changed the lives of dozens of young women forever. Kris Wu was the definition of too big to fail. As a former member of the massive group EXO, he transitioned into a solo career that was nothing short of legendary. He was the bridge between East and West, walking runways for Burberry and sitting front row at Louis Vuitton. But behind the velvet curtains of his Beijing penthouse, a much darker script was being written. The story doesn't start in a courtroom. It starts in the DMs. It starts with an invitation that sounded like a dream come true for any aspiring artist. "We're casting for a new music video," the messages would say. "Come to the house. Let's talk about your career." To a young woman looking for her big break, a message from Kris Wu's team wasn't just a notification. It was a golden ticket. But once those heavy doors closed, the atmosphere shifted. The interview wasn't held in a bright office with assistants and clipboards. It was held in a private residence, often late at night. There were no scripts to read, only bottles of expensive alcohol. This is where the psychology of power comes into play. When a global icon hands you a drink and tells you that your future depends on this meeting, no feels like an impossible word to say. The investigation later revealed a calculated pattern. This wasn't a series of misunderstandings, it was a pipeline. The strategy was simple. Use the lure of stardom to isolate young women. Use heavy amounts of alcohol to ensure they couldn't resist. And then use the weight of a $100 million legal team to make sure they stayed quiet. For years, the silence held. The money moved through bank accounts like shadows, settling disputes before they ever reached the public ear. But then came Du Meizhu. She wasn't just another name on a list. She was an influencer who decided that the trauma was worth more than any payout his team offered. When she went public in July 2021, she didn't just throw an accusation. She pulled the pin on a grenade. She described being invited for a signing, only to be pressured into drinking until she lost consciousness. When she woke up, the world she knew was gone, replaced by a reality of violation and fear. Her post acted like a signal flare. Suddenly, the Bun Muhammad, untouchable icon, looked very vulnerable. Brands that had paid him millions to represent them dropped him within hours. The speed of the collapse was breathtaking. But as the public watched the brands disappear, the Beijing police were looking at something much more concrete. The digital breadcrumbs left behind by a man who thought he was a god. They began looking into casting calls that went back years. They found records of parties that weren't just social gatherings, but something far more organized and predatory. And as the authorities dug deeper into the events of late 2020, involving 3 specific women, they realized that the golden boy wasn't just a celebrity with a messy personal life. He was the architect of a system designed to exploit. On July 31, 2021, The world watched as the man formerly known as a global icon was led away in handcuffs. The transition from luxury suites to a cold detention center was complete. But as he sat in that cell, a new question began to circulate. This wasn't just about one man. How many people had helped him build this trap? And what was the silent evidence found on his private servers that made the police move so fast? The deeper they looked, the more they realized the music video auditions were just the tip of a very dark iceberg. The man formerly known as a global icon was led away in handcuffs. The transition from luxury suites to a cold detention center was complete. But as he sat in that cell, a new question began to circulate. This wasn't just about one man. How many people had helped him build this trap? And what was the silent evidence found on his private servers that made the police move so fast? The deeper they looked, the more they realized the music video auditions were just the tip of a very dark iceberg. Think about the logistics for a second. A superstar doesn't just walk into a mall and pick people out. There was a system. We're talking about a multi-layered recruitment process that felt more like a corporate HR department than a social circle. His staff, his managers, even some of his friends, they weren't just bystanders. They were the gatekeepers. They would scan social media, looking for girls who were young, often 19 or 20, and who were fans of his work. They'd send a message that sounded like a dream. We're casting for a new music video. Kris Wu thinks you have the right look. Come to a private meeting at his residence to discuss the role. For a young student like Du Meiju, that's not just an invitation. It's a golden ticket. But once those front gates closed, the reality changed. There were no cameras, no scripts, and no production crew, just a table full of expensive alcohol. Investigators found that this was the primary tool. It wasn't about having a good time. It was about making sure the guests reached a point where they could no longer say no. In late 2020, 3 different women found themselves in this exact scenario. They were encouraged to drink until their memories became a blur. When they woke up the next morning, the audition was over, and the superstar was gone. To keep things quiet, the system used a combination of awe and cold, hard cash. After one of these nights, a victim might receive a transfer of 500,000 RMB. To a student, $77,000 is life-changing money. It's enough to pay for 4 years of university and then some. To Kris Wu, that was less than the price of a designer watch. It was a transaction meant to buy silence, disguised as a gift or a support payment. But the most disturbing part of the investigation didn't happen in 2020. As the police dug through his digital history, they hit a vein of data from 2018. They found evidence of a gathering at a hotel where it wasn't just Kris. 2 other men were involved in an incident with a woman who was completely incapacitated. This wasn't a one-time lapse in judgment. It was a ritual. It was a pattern of behavior that had been protected for years by a wall of handlers and a mountain of money. The silent evidence that finally broke the case wasn't just a witness statement. It was the digital crumbs left behind on servers Kris thought were secure. He had deleted his messages. He had wiped his logs. Or so he thought. When forensic experts got into those private devices, they didn't just find texts. They found a blueprint. They found the way he and his team spoke about these women, as if they were trophies or inventory, not human beings. But there was one specific file, a video file that had been shredded by a professional cleaning app, but was recovered by the cybercrime unit bit by bit. As the image cleared and the audio synced up, the investigators realized they weren't just looking at evidence of a single night. They were looking at something that would prove this wasn't just an unfortunate misunderstanding or a he said, she said situation. This file contained a detail so damning, so undeniable, that it didn't just end Kris Wu's career. It pointed toward a much larger conspiracy involving people who are still walking free today. What was on that video? And why did its discovery cause a sudden, quiet panic in the highest circles of the entertainment industry? As looking at evidence of a single night. They were looking at something that would prove this wasn't just an unfortunate misunderstanding, or a he said, she said situation. This file contained a detail so damning, so undeniable, that it didn't just end Kris Wu's career. It pointed toward a much larger conspiracy involving people who are still walking free today. What was on that video? And why did its discovery cause a sudden quiet panic in the highest circles of the entertainment industry? The video, and the thousands of chat logs recovered with it, revealed that this wasn't just one man making bad choices. It was a machine. Investigators found a consistent, chilling pattern where young women were contacted under the guise of a life-changing career opportunity, a role in a music video, a high-fashion contract, or a major film audition. They were invited to his private residence, often late at night, under the impression that they were meeting a professional team. But when they arrived, there was no camera crew. There were no scripts. There was only a dining table covered in high-proof alcohol and a group of handlers who made sure no one left until the festivities were over. This was a system designed to isolate and incapacitate. We aren't talking about a one-time mistake. We're talking about incidents spanning years, including a group incident back in 2018 that had been successfully buried until the digital trail was finally reopened. The silent witnesses in this case weren't just the victims' testimonies. They were the bank transfers. The paper trail showed sums of money being moved to settle matters after the fact. It was a cold, calculated transaction of power. When the hammer finally dropped, it was heavy. In November 2022, the court handed down a 13-year sentence for the violations and the group incidents from years prior. But the punishment didn't stop at a prison cell. The authorities also hit him with a tax evasion fine of 600 million yuan. To put that in perspective, that's about 84 million US dollars. If you stacked that much cash in $100 bills, it would be taller than a 20-story building. It was a total financial and social liquidation. But here's the detail that keeps people up at night: the social death. Within hours of the arrest, his entire digital existence was deleted. His music was pulled from streaming services. His social media accounts, with tens of millions of followers, simply vanished. It was as if he never existed. This wasn't just a celebrity scandal. It was a state-level erasure. Yet the quiet panic remains. Why? Because the records showed he didn't act alone. There were assistants who facilitated the meetings, recruiters who hunted for new faces, and associates who stood by while the incidents occurred. While one man sits in a cell today, waiting for the day he is deported, the system that allowed him to thrive is still there. The Kris Wu case wasn't just about a fallen idol. It was a wake-up call about the dark side of the God complex that comes with extreme fame. It proved that even in an industry built on illusions, the digital footprints we leave behind are very, very real. The file is closed for now, but the question remains. In a world where power can buy silence, how many other auditions are happening behind closed doors right now, waiting for someone brave enough to break the seal? The digital trail never truly disappears. It just waits for the right person to start looking.